Wednesday, U.S. authorities announcing they would not pursue charges. The DOJ saying, based on the results of the autopsy and after a careful deliberation and review of the investigative materials, the available evidence does not support a federal prosecution, adding it is important to reassure the public that experienced federal agents and seasoned prosecutors extensively reviewed the available evidence and have concluded that federal charges cannot be pursued. The Attorney General's office in Baja California Sur telling ABC News they have no comment on the DOJ's decision and that their investigation remains open.
The department based its decision, though, on the results of an autopsy, which was significantly different from the one that was conducted in Mexico. What do you believe contributed to those discrepancies? And
I think that they're looking to an autopsy and hanging their hat on an autopsy that they have admitted was compromised. Right?
Hey, y'all. I just wanted to come on and talk briefly about the latest news coming out about the Shanquella Robinson case. As we just heard, the DOJ dragged their feet, waited until the body was compromised to perform their second autopsy, and then basically thumbed their nose at Shanquella's family and the supporters who've been waiting nearly 6 months to see someone held accountable. I personally do not believe that there was ever any urgency or priority placed on this case by the DOJ, the State Department, and most especially Joe Biden's White House.
A young woman was killed in Mexico in October of last year. The suspect is in this country, along with those who were present. He sent a letter asking for extradition of the suspect to Mexico for the Mexican authorities to deal with, or if not, take jurisdiction of it here and deal with it. What's next? What's the White House willing to do?
So let me just first say our hearts go out to Ms. Robinson's family and friends. It is devastating what occurred, but because there's an FBI investigation underway, there's very little that we can say, and I would have to refer you to the DOJ and the State Department on this.
Let me ask you this, so since there's an FBI investigation, does that mean nothing happens until the investigation is complete? The United States has an extradition treaty with Mexico. Is all of this contingent upon the FBI investigation?
What I can say is there's an investigation going on, so this is something that the FBI has to speak to, so that's why I'm referring you to the Department of Justice. But again, this is something that we're clearly following here.
Are there capabilities for the United States to take jurisdiction over this?
Look, April, I understand the question and I appreciate the questions, all important questions to ask of me, but again, there's an ongoing investigation, so I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Process, not necessarily the investigation.
But there is a process that's currently happening because of the investigation, so I would refer you to the Department of Justice and also the State Department, as there are, this is a diplomatic issue.
Child, it's that look on her face for me. So if you're like me, my very first question was like, is this it? Like, is this over? But the family's attorney, Sue Ann Robinson, says no, adding that there's still hope with Mexico.
We are disappointed, but we're not deterred. The next step is that we still are calling for a high level of diplomatic intervention, because intervention is required from the Department of State, from the Department of International Affairs, in order to expedite and prioritize the extradition. The Attorney General in Baja Sur, which I went on a fact-finding mission to Mexico and spoke to them directly, they're saying that they've completed their investigation and submitted all their documentation for extradition. So it's up to the U.S. authorities now, if they're declining charges and saying their case is closed, for them to open the doors and permit Mexico to move forward with the extradition process. And that's what we're calling for now. And we're prepared to rally in D.C. on the 200th day after Shanquella's death if nothing is being done, if it's still not being prioritized.
I know a lot of us are disappointed, and I can't imagine how the family feels. But for me, marches and protests, they don't make a difference. Not in 2023. Times are different from the 50s and 60s. See, back then, the optics of young Black kids being violently attacked struck a chord with the Northern whites, who were far removed from what Jim Crow really looked like in the South. Remember, they didn't have internet and social media to give them a real-time view. So in 2023, the only way to get the attention of those in power is to hit them in the pockets. And unfortunately, we as a community are so addicted to material possessions that the powers that be dangle in front of us, we don't believe we can live without their stuff. And they know this. So we're just going to keep buying, and they're going to just keep spending our money to fund their interests and pay dust to ours. Look at how difficult it is to get traction with blackouts. And also for me, I don't think anyone in the Black community should be surprised by the DOJ's decision. We all know that Black lives do not matter in this country unless those Black lives are being used to make money. And when we have our own community using our lives to make money, buying mansions, paying baby daddies, and toasting it up, yeah, them. All on the premise of supporting the Black community. So when the DOJ and district attorneys decide not to bring charges in these cases, we should not be surprised. And can you blame them? Can we really sit the onus of how we're viewed as a community squarely at the feet of non-Black America? Look at how we view our own lives. Black on Black homicide rates are skyrocketing, with some reports showing a 74% increase in the last 8 years. Black fetuses are deleted 3 times more than other races, and some areas see more deletions than live births. We're paid to display violence, aggression, and bad behaviors on TV, and then we perpetuate and support this exploitation by incessantly consuming it. Crime and sexual irresponsibility is glorified in our music and our videos. And this street lifestyle has bled over into the culture by showing up in how we dress and how we act and present ourselves in public. We spend waste billions of dollars each year on clothes, cars, vacations, and body enhancements, while we rent homes, rack up debt, and are unable to come up with cash for a $400 emergency. The sad part, our children have a front row seat to our reckless lifestyles, and they're mimicking us by the time they're in preschool.
You are so out of order.
We spend our time and energy trying to impress and outdo one another instead of investing in our own communities, gaining financial and political literacy, and building strong families. You know, all the things that non-melanated Americans do. So when America doesn't see our lives as important and doesn't treat our issues with urgency and gives us little to no respect, can we really blame them? When we don't even see our own lives as important, we don't treat our own issues with urgency, and we certainly aren't showing ourselves respect. So let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe and ring the bell. If you got questions, comments, or stories you'd like us to chat about, send them to me at NahlaBehindTheWall@gmail.com. I look forward to reading your comments, and I thank you so much for subscribing and supporting. See you in the next video. Until then, ready, set, let's chat.